For 20 agonizing years, the Israelite people lived under a brutal military occupation in the land of Canaan. Their oppressors controlled the region using the absolute pinnacle of Bronze Age military engineering, the Iron Chariot. Commander Sisera deployed a massive fleet of 900 heavy chariots. This force formed an impenetrable blockade across the flatlands, isolating scattered settlements and severing every major trade route. This overwhelming display of hard power fractured the resistance and paralyzed an entire nation into submission. Against an armor-plated blockade, fighting back appeared to be a mathematical impossibility. The only spiritual authority holding Israel together was a prophet named Deborah. Unarmed, she still commanded the absolute spiritual conviction of the people. She summons General Barak with a precise military directive: mobilize 10,000 men and draw the Canaanite forces toward the elevated slopes of Mount Tabor. But Barak looks at his infantry, and he looks at the mechanized fleet below. The sheer terror of those chariots paralyzes him. He refuses to march unless Deborah physically walks onto the battlefield to accompany him. Because Barak requires human reassurance over a divine promise, Deborah issues a sharp prophecy. The battle will be won, but Barak will forfeit the honor of the final kill. The commanding general's glory will be diverted entirely to a woman. Barak's hesitation creates a sudden leadership vacuum. God's plan to liberate the region will proceed with or without the general's confidence, but his fear guarantees he will be replaced by a very unlikely substitute. The moment of truth arrives. Barak's infantry pours down from the safety of Mount Tabor, rushing directly into the open plains to meet a terrifying charge from Sisera's 900 chariots. Then, the environment itself suddenly turns against the Canaanites. A catastrophic weather event violently breaks open the sky. The Kishon River bursts its banks, turning the flat plains into a sprawling, inescapable mud trap. The physics are brutal. Thousands of pounds of iron sink into the earth, completely immobilizing Sisera's once unstoppable fleet. You can see the reality of this terrain here. Once a flash flood saturates this soil, a high-speed, heavy-wheeled vehicle has absolutely zero maneuverability. The Israelites didn't need superior armor to break the blockade. A perfectly timed natural disaster weaponized the terrain, turning the enemy's greatest technological strength into a fatal vulnerability. With his entire war machine trapped in the mud, Commander Sisera abandons his troops. He flees on foot, eventually seeking refuge at an isolated nomadic camp he assumes is friendly, neutral territory. This is where Jael enters the historical record. She holds no military rank. She is an ordinary civilian stepping squarely into the gap left by Barak. She executes a flawless tactical deception. She offers the exhausted general sanctuary, gives him milk to drink, and covers him with a blanket so he can sleep in peace. She doesn't reach for a forged sword. She grabs a mundane piece of primitive camping equipment. With the general deep in sleep, Jael takes the heavy wooden peg and a household hammer, driving it straight through his temple and pinning him to the ground in one swift, brutal strike. The man who commanded 900 war machines was defeated by a housewife with a piece of wood. In the critical moment, his specialized weaponry and rank were useless against her sheer decisiveness. Barak stood atop the mountain with an army and a divine promise, yet he stalled for a human guarantee. Jael stood alone in a tent with a household tool, yet she struck without hesitation. We all face our own 900 iron chariots. These are the intimidating, insurmountable obstacles that paralyze us: a sudden economic collapse, a terrifying health crisis, or a massive, well-funded industry rival. Confronted by these forces, we often stall. We wait for perfect conditions, demand a hand to hold, and watch the window of opportunity close while we wait for a guarantee that isn't coming. We need to stop staring at the heavy armor of our problems and look at the tent pegs we already possess. These are our mundane daily skills, our entry-level positions, the seemingly insignificant resources sitting right on our desks. You don't need a supernatural sword to confront the massive barriers in your life. You need to firmly grasp the ordinary tools you have been given and step confidently into the gap. Genuine faith does not wait for absolute certainty. It boldly strikes with a simple tent peg, trusting the timing of a God who can wash away the chariots.